So I am with Myles Kennedy. Super excited that I am seeing you probably in just a little over a month at the Stone Pony.
Yes. Sweet.
Woo-hoo.
I can't
Woo-hoo.
wait.
So the Art of Letting Go tour, the European leg just ended not very long ago. You pick up again on January 17th. That's not a whole lot of time off. We have our Stone Pony date on January 28th. It's funny because we've connected so many times. So I feel like I've spoken to you, but here's the thing that I was figuring out last night. I never really talked to you about the record in depth because the record had not come out yet.
Right.
So I had only heard maybe two songs, three songs at the times that we spoke. So now I have the opportunity to properly congratulate you on the masterpiece that is the art of letting go.
Thank you very much.
It's first of all, it's your guitar record. I feel like, and I could be totally wrong, this is my interpretation of it. It's such a very present record. It feels like it's, for me listening, very in the here and now. I go through that brilliant sequencing. You sequence this record so beautifully too, I
Thank
might
you.
add. But when I go through it, it doesn't seem like there's songs on here where you could say like, oh, this was written, pre-pandemic, or this seems like a very in the moment kind of project.
Yeah, I think to some degree it was. I mean, maybe some of that just because that's where I'm at this point in life, trying to be more present and whatnot. I mean, there were ideas that had been floating around. "Miss You When You're Gone" was an idea that I had set aside, but I hadn't finished it, and I just knew it was something solid. But then I would say 80% of the record, yeah, was written within about a 4 or 5 month period of time. So it was definitely just, a snapshot sonically and lyrically, kind of where I was. Yeah.
Yeah. And your guitar playing. Crazy. Like I listen to a record like this and then I think to myself, he's a guitar player first. And then I listen to You're the Tiger and I think, you're a songwriter for you are like this trifecta that's got to kind of mess with your head a little bit. So when you think of yourself first and foremost, do you think of, young Miles, the guitar player, the front man, the songwriter? What is
Hmm.
the first thing that comes to mind?
Dork.
Besides that.
Um, I think my love affair with the guitar is just it won't go away.
Yeah.
And especially since PRS were kind enough to, do the signature model with me, and that's really rekindled it something fierce. And absolutely 40 years later, and I still love it. So yeah, the guitar playing is kind of the thing that's still. But I don't want to take for granted the singing thing. I feel very, very grateful that somehow worked out, but that was really just to facilitate. Singing was like, okay, I'm gonna write songs and I need somebody to sing, so I'll do it myself. And why am I writing songs? So I can play guitar. It's all so he can play guitar. And I think that that's with this tour. I mean, it's really I think you'll really see that it's an excuse for Miles to play guitar. I played long extended guitar solos and different intros to
I
songs.
saw the footage from the European tour, and you know who seemed like he was having the best time was Tim.
Yeah, yeah.
Tim seemed like he was just so in the pocket, in the moment, and loving everything about being on stage. It was like rock star Tim. Now, you, Tim, and Zia, this is the band going out
Correct.
on the tour.
Just a three-piece, still little power trio.
I
But boy,
love
it's
it. Oh
fun.
my gosh.
Man, it's fun. We just had the best. The last 6 weeks when we were in Europe, I did not want to stop. I would have kept. I told Tim, can we
I
just
could see that. Yeah.
throw some more dates on here? Let's just keep rolling. And normally after a month and a half, you're pretty beat up. But I mean, as we were saying goodbye, some of the crew guy. I mean, it was an emotional, like it was like leaving summer camp. Nobody wanted to go home. It was great.
Yeah, the footage looked incredible. The guitars, I mean, the guitars that were just coming out were just like, oh my God. And it just looked like an amazing tour. So do not miss the Stone Pony. There's a vibe there. It's a very legendary place. And to
Yeah.
have the three of you there, I think is going to be incredible. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the songs on the record. Maybe we'll hit like three or something, but I just wanted to kind of get your vibe on like, say, if we talk about why you opened with The Art of Letting Go, it is such a you hear that, man, and you just feel free. Take a breath and close your eyes. That's an out of the cannon shot, heard round the rock and roll world. Why was it important to lead the record with that?
I think, when I'm sequencing records, I try to what's the thing that's going to punctuate it a certain way. I shouldn't say punctuate it. That's the wrong way to say because you're opening it up. What's a great way to introduce this album, this body of work. And I just felt like there's something about that the call and response thing, right? Where it just felt like that was going to be appropriate. So live, same thing. It's just a great. It
Yeah.
felt like it was just a great way to just get here's what we're doing, kids.
Custom made for live performance.
Yeah.
Who's Mr. Downside?
Yeah,
Is
me.
that some of you? Yeah. I can imagine that. I
Yeah.
can picture that. A little bit of your journey, those real intimate moments. Talk to me a little bit about that song.
Yeah, that song is, and I've written many, and I will continue to write more about my struggles with being a bit of a glass half empty at times, even though there are people who know me are like, oh, you seem so optimistic and so hopeful. And there is that side of me. But there are times we all like wake up one day and we're just like, oh, and so that song is really addresses that. And the choruses are, me trying to remind myself to look at the glass being half full as opposed to half. I have at this point in life, I have there is absolutely no reason. I have no excuse to look at the glass anything but frankly just overflowing as lucky as I've been with everything. So that song is it is a reminder for me.
Yeah. Lucky, but yet talented and hardworking because you're always working.
I'm
You
always
are a
working.
worker bee. You do not take much downtime off. So I don't want you to say, oh, just lucky. I've worked with you for many years and you're a guy who works. You get out there and you're playing and you're traveling and you're doing all the things that you have to do. And eventually, I think no matter how you see that glass half full, there are parts of that can be a little bit taxing. So that's a normal, that's kind of a normal feeling. Miss You When You're Gone, you mentioned it. Oh my God, it's a masterpiece. I, if I've had a glass of wine, I can't watch the video.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The
Have you?
video is incredible. So, did you come up with the concept? Did Ali come up? You always put out great videos. I have to say, you've been somebody who has been very much a crafter of videos around a lot of these songs, and they're all a little bit different, but there's always these great pieces. But that one is really pretty magical. And you get to the end of it and you're just like, oh my God. So, did you come up with that? How did you guys work on that
You know
together?
what? I can't take credit for that. That the genesis of that idea, that was Tim's thing. Like he had this idea.
Tim.
Yeah, Tim came up with that idea about the story, what the storyline would be, which I was like, well, I'm not going to fight that. It's like a lot of times as creatives, you're like, oh, you want to be like, well, what if we did this and what if we didn't? It's like, you know what, man, that's so good. Like, no, I'm not gonna. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So then he took it to Ollie, and it was like once the once that was done, once he did such a great job of manifesting that emotion with those images, and there's so many moments where, in fact, when we first got the first edit of that video, I remember sitting with people and I go, okay, I want you to watch this. And I was in the plane, I was sitting with Selena. I go, okay, watch this, but put your sunglasses on. Just why? You're going to want those sunglasses on because you're going to start crying. She's, I am not. Sure enough, everybody I've challenged by the end of it,
It's
they're like,
impossible not
here.
to. It is impossible not to. I think if I had to be an actress in something, I would watch that and then they would be like, let's go. Bam, you're in. I mean, it's just because it just is so moving. There is no way not to be moved by the video. And I just said to you before we got rolling, and you should take credit for this, when you performed at our parking lot party, you kind of debuted that. I think that song had just come out that day. It was, pre-record being released. And you said, this is new. We haven't done it live yet. I'm going to do it for all of you. It was, oh my God. And I had to do a Q&A with you afterwards. And I had like goosebumps and I'm just like, I forgot everything I was going to ask you. Like I had nothing to ask you because it was so moving to have you there performing for people. But like that there's something about that song that is just one of the most impactful songs I've ever heard. So when I say that it's a masterpiece, I mean that it's a masterpiece. Are you taking that out on the road with you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that song's a very important part of the set. It's fascinating too, because like and it really makes there's nothing better as a songwriter than when you put a song towards the end because you kind of have it's all about the how you sequence everything, albums
I
and
said that I love this record sequencing. It's so
thank you.
perfect. It just took me on that journey. And then when I heard the last song, I was like, the record ended for me mentally.
That's wonderful. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
And so when we play that song live, we put it towards the end of the set, and where a lot of the bigger, some more single, songs that people know, and it was just so fun to think, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, and the crowd of people just and I was like, wow, it really, it's just beautiful when everything kind of a plan comes together, and you're like, oh, thank goodness, one more song that we
It
can,
was what I thought. Yeah, it was what I
yeah,
thought. Well, you're
yeah,
a very
exactly.
intuitive guy. I think you really feel what the audience, what the audience wants. I've seen that whether you're solo in Jersey or with Alter Bridge, people just there's a love affair with Miles in the state of New Jersey, which I think you already know. Oh, but I was telling you, Parking Lot Party, you had the most views on WDHA's YouTube page with that from the Parking Lot Party
That's crazy.
for the
That
whole
was
year.
That's crazy. I
Mhm.
I I look at people. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm blown away.
I
Thank you.
literally was like, I got the report this morning, our lives sometimes become about reports. And I could not have been happier, first of all, because I love you, you know that. And I thought, this is what people want. People don't, the hokey, goofy videos we make, those are fun and everything, but this is the one that got the most views for the whole year. And we didn't put it up till like mid to late September. So go figure. And one more tune I'm going to ask you about that I just love, and I think there's such a great hook to it, is Eternal Lullaby. First of all, your guitar solo is a mind bender on that song. It is just like I felt like I was a 17-year-old kid listening to guitar solos that I've loved my whole life in my bedroom, whether I'm listening to Eddie Van Halen or Alex Lifeson or, just all of those great solos. What an incredible song. So was the inspiration Chris Cornell and all of the lines that we pick out of that song?
Yeah, that song was written that like Eternal Lullaby was written. Majority of it was written right after he. I'm sorry, that like Miss You When You're Gone was written a few years ago, and the yeah that it was written not long after Chris passed away, and I kind of wanted it to be capture like I tried to make it broad to some degree, like a lot of the artists that have influenced me over the years. But there's a key line, Fell on Black Days, and now you're gone forevermore. So obviously that's a tip of the hat to Chris. But Jeff Buckley and Chris, those guys were very, very influential on a lot of us. And I feel like their legacy and the body of work that they created will continue to live on and inspire so many of us, and so it was written. If I could sit down with them and just say, look, you do realize the impact you've had on so many people, right? These eternal lullabies will carry on. And yeah, so I haven't played that song live yet. Actually, I have a fan who's got like a band in Japan. He lives in Japan, and so he's been playing it live, which is really cool.
Wow,
I
he
just
beat you
play,
to the punch.
they beat me to the
Wow.
punch. Junior beat me
Wow.
to the punch. Yeah.
Wow. So speaking of playing songs live, now you've got, 3 records of solo material. That's a show. So
Yeah.
how are you picking it? Is the set list changing every night? How are you picking it out? Because you've got a nice chunky solo body here to choose from.
Yes, which is nice because now I don't, I feel like I can do that material, and it work, and I think that's what I felt on this run we just did in Europe, because I wasn't integrating a lot of AB or Slash and the Conspirators. It was primarily this body of work, and I was like, how's this going to fly? And I just was so happy that people were getting into it. Now I still do an occasional like acoustic version. Maybe I'll do Lover by Alter Bridge and All Ends Well. That's kind of like a staple. And we never played that song with Alter Bridge, so I feel all right doing that. But other than that, some nights I won't even I won't do any of those, and I'll play the Trooper instead on acoustic, or I'll play an old Mayfield 4. Yeah, so
Right.
I'm trying to mix it up. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it in our last conversation. Your body of work is giant now. We're like 20 albums in or something. I mean, it's really crazy.
Yeah, it really is starting to. I mean, it's one of those things like it makes you realize that, wow, I've been on the planet for a while. You've made all these records, but it also makes you realize how fortunate you are that, like, wow, I remember in the 90s, I remember sitting there as a young, struggling artist, didn't have any money, could barely afford, the guitars I was playing on, and was writing these songs, and I loved it. I loved the process. I was like, man, if I could just make one record with like a real producer in a real studio, one record, that'd be it. Like I'd check that box. If you'd have told me, 25, 30 years later that you were going to have this body work and you're going to have, dozens of these albums that you'd be a part of, not dozens, I don't know, however many 17, 18, 19, whatever it is at this point, I never would have, because I was always Mr. Downside. Like, there's no way, I was just such a Debbie Downer, but somehow it all worked out. And, I don't take that for granted.
So, young Miles, do you consider yourself a success? You've always been a really humble guy, and I've always considered you somebody who's very proud to be a working musician and
Mhm.
not necessarily, you're not the guy who wants to be the rock star. You're not the
Mm.
guy who needs 1,000 people around you. You and Timmy. And Tim, who, by the way, for people that may not know, that may not be Miles super fans like me, Tim is Miles' manager. But Tim is also part of the band and, a big part of the process. We love Tim Ternier. He's just a great guy and
Yeah,
a super talented
really.
gentleman. So, when you're kind of looking back, do you view yourself, do you think, you know what, I'm kind of to a point now where I can take a breath and feel like I've kind of done it.
I, f- yeah, I feel like I can finally kind of sit down and look at everything over the last few decades and go, okay, yeah, somehow you landed on your feet. And so, yeah, take a breath and enjoy it. Smell the roses, really just absorb all this. And there's such I was talking with Devin Townsend about this, and just the idea of coming at, even from the creative standpoint of like, now that we're in this period of life where you really, it's more about gratitude and being aware of that and writing from that standpoint and just expressing that on stage, and as opposed to getting up on stage and being super serious and intense and angry, and some nights, maybe that's appropriate, but what I found with this is it's just, you're it's an absolute manifestation of gratefulness and joy, and something happens when that emotion fills your body, and then you spit it out through song, through guitar playing, and then this becomes the cycle, and then the audience feels it and they give it
Yeah.
back to you, and you give it, it's just this thing. And I don't know, yeah, it's a really special time in life. I don't know if I've ever been quite so content as an artist, and it's just been a complete joy. Yeah.
That makes me happy. I'm really happy to hear that. And you're right, you spit it out and it comes back. And I think that's the relationship. Like he said in Almost Famous, that's the buzz. That's really what you do it for, that's
Yeah.
the feeling. So I would imagine this is such a silly question, but I'm going to ask it because I already know the answer. 2025 is probably going to be super busy for you,
Yeah.
correct?
It's gonna be totally kooky, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine with your
Yeah.
solo stuff. And then I hear there's another Alter Bridge record, and then there's going to be another Conspirators. And it's probably just going to be insane.
It's going to be nuts. I was just talking with my mom about it the other day, and she's like, son, when are you thinking of slowing down? And I'm like, 4 years ago, I was contemplating. I'm like, Mom, no, it's not, that's not happening anytime soon. Things are rolling. I'm just going to keep going with it. Cause I think I'm just in a good place at this point, and I'm just savoring it and grateful for it. And gosh, I mean, I don't know what else to say.
I'm happy
People.
to hear that. I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, and we're happy to hear that, of course, in New Jersey and New York, because we can never get enough of you. And January 28th, we have a Stone Pony show. I'm so
Yes,
excited about this. I cannot wait to see this show. It's going to be incredible.
me too. I'm. excited to get back there and build some more memories.
Myles, what can I say? You know, I love you. Say hi to Selena. Give the
All right,
pup a kiss
I
for
will.
me.
I will.
And all the best. Congratulations on an amazing record, a masterpiece record.
Thank
And we'll
you.
see you out on the road.
Thank you so much.